Good morning, good afternoon, and evening, baseball fans. Welcome back to the Power Ranking panel here on Barstool Baseball. I'm Carl. I am joined by three of the smartest baseball guys I know, Hubs, Chris Castellani, and Klemmer. This is Power Ranking for Week 12 of the Major League season. I will say off the top, nothing about our Omaha trip, only that this will be the hardest time we've ever had to put a 1 through 9 together. I'm looking at these teams, win-loss. We want to get in front of this now. I don't want to hear it. 3, 6, 4, 5. We're going to do our best. Klemmer, you look like you've been stressing over the top 9.
The 1 through 5 is pretty easy. It gets wacky after that. I have some kind of crazy picks on here. I don't know how it's going to fly with you guys, but I don't know. Like you said, like 6 through 13, you could probably just shuffle them up and pick them out of a hat, but I did my best to put an order together.
I think it's an interesting week because I think there's several teams that are like evergreen teams that we always put on these lists who are playing like shit. I think that we're going to get an interesting little mix up here. We saw the Marlins sneak in last week. You could have another kind of surprise team finding their way onto this list. You never know. I like you're right, Klemmer. Like 6 through 13, I think there's a lot of potential options here.
Hubs, you look good.
I don't feel good. Played a lot of pickleball yesterday. My back hurts.
I heard
but
that.
I'm here. We're ready to go.
Because you're tennis, so pickleball is like a later conversion thing, like 16-inch softball, slow pitch softball for guys, like getting out of the men's league in baseball.
Yeah, like I have a sick one-handed backhand like Roger Federer in pickleball, but my back does not translate whatsoever. So we're here.
You're here. You're durable. Castellani Iron, Omaha. It is hot in Omaha. I had to get up last night to rub ointment on my legs in the middle of the night because I had gotten cramps because the humidity and the climate and just my body just takes so much out of you. I'm just giving so much to Omaha. I'm just out here just putting it back into the sport.
How long are you guys there for?
8 days?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
we leave on the 22nd. Yeah.
Hey, and if things go my way, make it round up, make it an even 12. Also, Frank the Tank is on site with Coach Doug's, and it's not until you're walking around with Frank and you really get a sense of the mass that follows that man. It is, if he wanted to start a religion tomorrow, purely based on internet reaction videos and salt consumption, thousands would show up. They'd have to, based on what I witnessed yesterday in Omaha.
He's bigger than the Beatles at this point. Yeah.
Frank is the king of salt. He carries salt packets with him. He is all things salt, which I appreciate. I'm a big salt guy myself, so I'm with Frank on that one.
He's the salt of the earth. With that, let's get into the power ranking batting order. I believe we have Hubs up first, followed by Klemmer. Castellani will hit in the 3 hole, and I'm going to be in the 4 spot. Let's get weird. This is a tough week, guys. You're up,
Hubs, you're up.
Oh shit! So we're just gonna lead. Okay, I thought it was gonna be. I thought you were gonna say like Hubs, you're leading off. It was
Okay.
Like, okay.
Here
we go.
I tried. No, Hubs, you're up. I tried to go through the order, but
Here we go. So we're not moving them off yet. Yeah. I think we're getting there, maybe in a week or two, to moving them off if they continue to have, but not yet. The Tampa Bay Rays are still number 1. They're 51-23. Yes, they split with the Oakland A's. You know what? I don't know how many teams. Like the Oakland A's are no slouches anymore. You play them, you got to show up the way they're playing lately. They currently are splitting with the Padres as we're recording this. They played later today. Obviously, if they lose that, people are like, oh, move the Braves up to 1. I still got Tampa there. I'm going to say this about Tampa because we talk basically 1 through 26 throughout their entire roster here. I'm going to say this. Yandy Diaz not currently winning the first base vote for the All-Star game because Toronto fans have Vladdy Jr. in their mouth. Get out of town. That is ridiculous. Vladdy Jr.'s OPS is below 800. Yandy Diaz is 926 with a 160 OPS plus. That guy deserves this more than any first baseman right now in the league. Vladdy Jr. doesn't deserve it at all. Toronto fans, come on. I understand you're distraught about Alek Manoah and all this, and you're compensating here by putting Vladdy Jr. in the All-Star game, but that guy does not deserve it one bit. Put Yandy Diaz in there. Get your morals together and vote Yandy Diaz. And I'm saying this as a Yankee fan. I hate the Tampa Bay Rays. Yandy Diaz deserves to be the starting first baseman in the All-Star game. No questions asked.
Anybody else feel like it'd be better if they let the fans vote on the alternates instead of the starters?
No, because it doesn't matter. It's just the All-Star game. It's okay.
Yeah, but there's some mystique to starting the All-Star game that doesn't like exist anymore. Because like
Wait, Klemmer,
the year the Royals voted 7 guys in. Like, I don't know. It's kind of cheap.
What's that, Carl?
I'm blown away. You're not. Are you mad the All-Star game isn't as good as it was when Pete Rose took out Ray Fosse at home plate and it mattered then? Or like what's the evolution of this All-Star take? Because I know there was a point when you used to like it.
I still like it. I still watch it. Still get excited for it every year. My thing with the All-Star game is like it's always been the fans vote. Like it always does have this like aura of some like triviality about it. Like it's kind of silly at times, but the managers and everyone else does fill in the alternates. So like to Hub's point, Yandy Diaz absolutely should be starting. He's not going to start. It's not Toronto fans. It's just baseball. People know Vladdy's name. They don't know Yandy Diaz.
Oh no, it's Toronto fans. It's Toronto fans.
But they'll put Yandy in as an alternate, and all will work out. I don't know. I
don't like that because this hurts Yandy in like future contract negotiations and on arbitration, all that. They bring all this shit up, and it goes up against him, and it hurts him.
But that's why you need to have a couple years of being good. Like that's part of it too. Like you can't just have like one great year and be a starter in an All-Star game. It's just not how it typically works. Sometimes like it's like the Oscars. Like sometimes you get the Oscar for the part that is like Scorsese wins for Departed, but it's kind of like a lifetime achievement award. He didn't really deserve it for Departed. He deserved it for the 6 movies he made before that were great. It's just how it works. Like, it's not fair, but it's always been that way. So I don't know. I don't get too up in arms about it.
I don't know.
It's not like Yandy Diaz is having that great of a year. He's having a very good year.
He's
not
having a pretty
like,
damn good year.
He's having a pretty good year.
But he's not going to win the MVP. Is what I'm saying. Like, it's not like
no.
Well,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
But Klemmer, Vladdy doesn't have a homer at home this year.
It should be Diaz over Vladdy, but that's just not how it works.
I agree with Klemmer that where he wants to take the argument is like he's willing to have that argument, but like if Yandy Diaz was like, I think there's another gear where we can have this argument. But right now, it's like the way it's set up is like they want Vlad in there. They want Toronto voting him in.
Right.
That's what they want. Although Hubs, did you just say you hate the Blue Jays? Did you just say you fucking hate them?
Yeah, that goes without saying.
Okay, thank you.
Goes without saying. Vladdy, you could argue, shouldn't even be a reserve with the way he's playing.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Could argue it. Sorry, we went on this tangent, but I saw that on Twitter yesterday and it pissed me off.
Well, it's a much better conversation than sitting here and talking through why the Rays are good a year again. No,
right, we say it every week, so I decided to shift us a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's fair. Yeah. I also don't mind Yandy Diaz getting a little love. Like, some of these guys for the Rays that are having these big years, people don't know who they are. And, like, I know we talked about it a tiny bit, last week, but if the Rays make it to the World Series, that's not a great look for Fox because a lot of these guys are unknown. And that's kind of that can be sort of a problem if you're looking at kind of how this is going to, work from a national level. And part of it is because Major League Baseball is so bad at marketing these guys too, but that's an argument for another day.
You're up, Klemmer.
Alrighty. Like Hub said, it's the Braves. So here's the deal with the Braves, and I agree with Hubs. This is probably the closest it's been between 1 and 2 since early April. Mm-hmm. Maybe even since we started doing this. The Braves had an incredibly soft schedule this week, right? They played 3 against the Tigers. Sorry, Castellani.
We got one. We won one. Yeah.
You did. And then they had 4 against the Rockies. Now, we're taping this Sunday morning. We don't know how that's going to work out. But the Braves took care of business and went 5-1 in the games we know about. Now, the Braves do have a softer schedule. It does get a little bit tougher next week. They got the Phillies and Reds, the red-hot Reds, who are just out of control right now. I still have some concerns about their pitching staff, but Jared Schuster is pitching better. He's becoming a league average, he's a 4 starter, so that's okay. So some of the concerns I have for the Braves are starting to go down. Plus, A.J. Smith-Shawver, crazy last name that I'm never going to be able to say right, he's had a couple of good starts. So if they can get the guy whose name I can't pronounce, as well as Jared Schuster as your 4 or 5 guys, now some of those concerns about losing Max Fried go away. Some of those concerns about losing Kyle Wright go away. Michael Soraka being ineffective goes away. You still have 5 good starters. Braves, I know I said it a while ago and I got kind of scoffed at. The Braves are going to win the NL East. The question is who gets those wild cards out of that division.
Yeah, no, they've been pulling away here for a minute. That's a fair assessment about the week schedule throughout the week. At the same time, like, I have been around a lot of good baseball teams who fuck around against shitty teams all the time. Like, I understand you look at these games, you say, hey, they should be winning it. There's few things more infuriating as a baseball fan than being like a game up and you got a shitty like White Sox team coming to town, you drop 2 out of 3. Like, there is something to be said about the workmanlike way that they go about their business. Like, they lost that first game to the Tigers where they blew a lead. They gave a C+ effort the next 2 days and beat the shit out of them. Like, that's just kind of what they do.
No, that's a great point, Chris. Like, look at the scores of these games against the Rockies. 8-3, 8-1, 10-2. They're not fucking around. They're just beating the shit out of them.
Right. And that, when you read those scores, and I know that they've pitched well in those games, when you read those scores, you realize that they can survive for a while here with the pitching staff they have. Now, by the time we get to September, October, going to be a different story, going to have to bolster at the deadline, but they can simply outslug their opponents right now and probably win that division pretty easily. Yeah.
It goes back to organizational depth. Schuster's 24, Smith-Shawver's 20. Those guys weren't guys they were counting on before the season started to have any major role in the team. They slog right in. Now you have a 4th and 5th starter. We talk about all the time on this show is that you don't build a winner by trades or by free agency. You build it by organizational depth. And this is one of the clearest examples.
Yep. Me at number 3.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I was jumping the gun there too much. I'm moving it over to you. I didn't know if there is. I had felt like it was time for you, but then I looked down at the timer, so I'm just gonna say I could have fucked that one up.
It's fine. I don't know. Does anyone else have anything? Yeah. Does anybody else have anything to add about the Braves? I mean, we know they're really fucking good. They beat the piss out of their opponents this week. Yeah, I think it goes to 3 now where I'm at. I'm gonna go with a team that I think their stock dropped a little bit this week, and I do think there are the concerns that I've had about them since the beginning still exist, but. I trust them, and nobody else in that division is really carrying their weight right now. It's the Texas Rangers. Not a great week for them. I think going forward, the bullpen is going to be an issue. And there's another team that might make this list who's got serious bullpen woes as well. But I think of all the units that can be fixed at the deadline, the one that is easiest to fix is definitely your bullpen. Like, if you have a shitty rotation, you need 3 starters, you're not going to acquire them all at the deadline. If you have a bad lineup and you need a few power hitters, you can maybe get 1 or 2 guys, but you're not going to bolster or revamp your entire lineup. I feel like with 1 or 2 relievers, all of a sudden this thing can kind of get fixed. Offense went quiet at points against some really good pitchers. They had to face Gausman this week. They had to face Ohtani this week. So on nothing super concerning. They have a comfortable lead in that division right now. Definitely not their best week, but the lineup is still just a nightmare. As long as those guys can stay healthy, they're going to be fine. And considering the way that some other teams in that division have played, I don't know who in that division will make the list, if any, beyond the Rangers. It's one of those weeks where they kind of could have afforded to slip up because I don't believe they lost any games in the standings. They're still comfortably in first. Still got a great lineup. You still have guys like Evaldi and Gray who pitched very well this year. Not a ton of concern, but they have dipped just a little bit in these spots from 2 to 3.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. I have them at 3 as well. I just want to give a quick thing of where they stack. So as far as their offense. So here are the categories they are number 1 in the American League. They're number 1 in runs, in hits, as well as batting average, on base, and they're second in doubles and slugging percentage. They are an absolute juggernaut offensively. I agree once again with Chris where you can fix a bullpen with trade deadline moves. That's happened before. We've seen it. Now, you mentioned kind of their division standings. I don't know how many times you can have a week like this, though, and still survive. They're lucky when the Astros have been completely just pooping all over themselves. But the Angels, Hubbs and I were talking about the office. The Angels are starting to rise up a little bit. So you wonder how much longer. You can't be bad forever because if the Astros aren't going to catch you, it might be the Angels.
Yeah,
Angels,
I would have. Sorry, go, Carl.
No, I was just going to say that's the first time the Angels have been mentioned in the first 15 minutes in the history of this show.
They could be mentioned later.
They could be. They
Yeah.
should be. You would have had now. Yeah, like you said, Chris, not the greatest week for the Rangers. I will say the teams right below them in this tier, because they're like we said, there's a drop off once we get to 6 here. But in this tier, Diamondbacks and Orioles, who I hope will be mentioned very shortly in the show, had a chance to probably hop the Rangers if they had good weeks. They didn't. So everyone, the 3 through 5 teams, basically in this power rankings, didn't do a whole lot to move up. So that's why the Texas Rangers deservedly, I feel like, stay pat at 3. That makes sense for just optics and when people see the arrows and stuff. It makes sense the Texas Rangers stayed at 3.
I think it's very fair to say the Braves legitimately jumped the Rangers with how they played this week. It wasn't the Rangers dropped because they just had a bad week. The Braves earned that spot at 2, whereas you had a few other teams that probably could have, just didn't seize the opportunity. But give it more time. We'll see what happens.
Corey Seager could win an MVP.
Yeah,
he could.
he's going to be in the running.
Oh. Just want to point that out. Am I up 4?
Yep, you're at 4.
So I like where you guys kind of set me up well here because I want to make this pick based on we are at the point where it's really just in my heart, who do I think would win tomorrow in a series? Because there's a lot of just parity here. So I'm gonna take the Diamondbacks because I think the NL West and being first place in the NL West gets a little bit of a shirt pop for me here if I was going to compare them to some of the other teams. And then we've talked about their 1-2 before. I don't want to beat a dead horse here with Corbin Carroll, but he's just outstanding. Christian Walker's been good enough. Klemmer and I did a huge deep dive on the Diamondbacks last week, and I think a lot of that stuff holds up true. If you want to go back and listen to how we spent 40 minutes talking about the Diamondbacks. Really like what they've put together here. And the trades they made this offseason, if there's one point I want to take from our deep dive on them, the trades that the Diamondbacks executed this offseason to get Gabriel Moreno and Lourdes Gurriel while Dalton Varsho to the Blue Jays, it's just masterful work. They've arrived here probably a little bit earlier than we were ready for, and a lot of that just Corbin Carroll is just so I would trade places with him in a second. I want to be Corbin Carroll.
He's a franchise player. I don't blame you, dude. Corbin Carroll's just cool too. It's not even
He's the coolest
some guys get called
person on the planet. There's not an athlete. There's not a influencer. There's nothing that I think looks cooler than Corbin Carroll walking up to the batter's box with his flow and his Evo shield, knowing that he's just significantly better and more talented. And it's just a little baby. He's just a little guy. He's going to be here for 15 years.
He's going to be one of those guys that an entire generation of kids are going to base their game off of. He's just such an energy guy, instant turnaround to that organization. But I'm really glad you brought up the trades, Carl. Lourdes Gurriel has beaten the piss out of the baseball this year. He is having a career year. And, Varsho's a fine player, but so far that has been a phenomenal trade for them. And then you have those 2 anchors in the rotation with Gallen and Kelly doing their thing. Gallen just had a great start. Yeah, fun team. This is, we're coming up on the halfway point. There's becoming a bit of a separation there. 4 games, I get it. You can make up for that with one great week, but this is a real thing now. The Diamondbacks have a legit chance of winning this fucking division, which I think would be an amazing story. I know the Giants won. When was the last time a team not named the Giants or Dodgers won this division? Was it 2011 when the Diamondbacks won it?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
The Giant. Oh, it says Giants.
Yeah. No, they've got wild card spots, but they never won it.
Padres haven't done it in forever. It probably is.
So Diamondbacks are in that position. I like them. I guess I'd ask do you guys no one cares. They're 4. They're fine being 4.
I just want to add 2 quick things. One, when the Varsho trade happened, didn't understand it at all. I thought he was severely overrated. I think his WAR is so super inflated because he plays so many defensive positions, and he is just not a good enough hitter to be traded for that haul. Second thing, happened to catch the end of the Diamondbacks game last night against the Guardians. Shane Bieber goes after for the 8th inning pitch count and total control, and the Diamondbacks jump on him. And they hit 3 home runs in the inning, including Corbin Carroll as well. McCarthy hits a second on the year, and just like that, in the blink of an eye, they go from a tie game to 6-2, and it's wow, okay, you were going against Shane Bieber, and you turned that game around in seconds. Very impressive to me. They are deservingly where they are in this list.
By the way, Corbin Carroll on pace to end the season. 34 home runs, 45 stolen bases. He's a rookie.
As a fucking rookie. Yeah, I mean, we're coming up. If this continues, we're going to talk about this rookie season in the vein of like, one of the great, like maybe not Judge in 17 type of levels, but like one of those like you got here immediately and you were a top 10 player the second you stepped on a major league ball field. Yeah.
Also, just the impact other pitchers have had. Yuri Perez in the Marlins, like Ellie De La Cruz in the Reds. Like this is going to be like I always look back at like '86 as this year of great rookies in baseball. Wally Joyner, Barry Bonds. Jose Canseco, right? So like, there were all these like really impressive rookies that came out. Even like Greg Maddux started but didn't do very well. But like you had this amazing class of people. I wonder if we're getting that amazing class of people right now in front of us in 2023. And I hope we all can appreciate it and look at the impact these young players are having. Because I've been watching baseball a long time. I don't remember too many years where rookies have had pennant implications with so many different teams. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's very exciting for me.
That's a good observation. This has the potential. I think 2015 was the last class I remember feeling this way about, where you had Lindor, Correa. I mean, there were a few others where like they burst onto the scene, and they were those kind of game changers. Like when Correa arrived, the Astros like almost immediately got good. I'm kind of getting that sense with Carroll and some of the guys like De La Cruz as well. Fun class for sure. Back to the top, right?
Yeah.
Back to me. Fairly boring pick. I feel like it's just necessary, and then we get to the really fun stuff here. But the Baltimore Orioles are number 5. Yep. They're 43-27. They have not had the best week. They did start off the week very well, hosting the biggest home series they've had in years against the Toronto Blue Jays. Took 2 of 3. Watching Batista get a 4-out save in front of almost a sellout crowd. I don't know if it was a full sellout. I believe that it was on Wednesday, was electric. He blew the Blue Jays away. They took the series 2 of 3. They have then proceeded to lose the first 2 games here in Chicago to Carl's Cubs. Very confusing week, but I'll just chalk it up to baseball's baseball, and sometimes you just can't play your best, and you have lulls, and especially on the road sometimes. But I'm not going to there's no reason for that to put them below number 5. I will say Aaron Hicks, in his 15 games with the Orioles, is hitting .304 with a .940 OPS. So if you're wondering why I'm upset these days, you could look at that stat line. But the Orioles number 5, and I don't really. You could maybe in a week or two. There's an NL Central team, if they keep playing the way they do, they hop up to number 5. But you can't do it just yet.
I like the pick a lot. I think it's a sound pick. I think it makes sense when you look at the stand-off. Just obviously they have to be 5 here. I think when we came into this, you guys said top 5. This is pretty round out, right? Like we all agree. They've earned the right to be 5 is kind of how I look at the Orioles. One of those teams you drop to or whatever. Exactly. It's very easy to say. We know they're better than what they've earned, but this is kind of a critical juncture because you can't have too many, another one of these weeks, okay, fine. 2 of these weeks going into a trade deadline. Like, you have to have momentum going to the trade deadline. I just hope the Orioles haven't used all their momentum up already.
Yeah, I'll say their upcoming schedule is very, to finish out this first half, hosting Tampa for a quick 2-gamer. Oh, sorry, at Tampa for a quick 2-gamer. Hosting Seattle and the Reds, and then Minnesota at New York at Minnesota. That is not a cakewalk. Those are tough teams. They need to really show up here and not play this brand of baseball they have brought to Chicago. They need to wake up, because if they do slip up, then that could mean a Blue Jays, a Yankees maybe hops them in the AL East. Because that it is they have a nice little lead there, but that can go away quick with how tough that little schedule is there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly right, Hub. So the Orioles are on pace to win 100 games. That's great. The bad news is there's a lot of teams in the American League who are pretty damn good. So right now the Orioles have a 5-game lead on the wild card. They're ahead of the Yankees and Astros, who right now would also qualify. But then you have the Angels, Blue Jays right there nipping at their heels. And so the Orioles at 5 games is good for sure, but if you have a 100-win team, you'd like it to be win more than that, but that's just not the reality of it. And then they have the Rays way in front. So the Orioles need to play really good baseball if they want to get in the playoffs. It's not fair because they're in a really hard division, but that's just the reality.
For sure. Yeah, it reminds me, I think it's similar, this AL East race is similar to the NL Central race from, again, going back to 2015, where it's like the Cubs are going to win 95, 96, 97 games, and it's like, well, you might get that second wild card spot. I think that there's going to be a lot of teams There's that traffic jam there. I mean, I think the Rays are going to win the division, but those 2 through 4 spots, depending on the week, could be interchangeable. But the Orioles have gotten off to a nice lead here.
Klemmer, I think you're up.
I'm going to go with the Marlins here. Now, there's a number of teams we could pick, and I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. The Marlins were on our list last week, and they are a really good baseball team, and it's easy to sleep on these guys. Let's look at their starting pitching. You know, they have Sandy Alcantara, who's not having a good year at all, and they're still on pace to win over 90 games. You have Jesus Luzardo, Braxton Garrett. If you look at his last few starts, he's really leveled up. He's becoming kind of the guy we saw a couple years ago. And then Yuri Perez. Yuri Perez in 7 starts has a 1.80 ERA. He is an ace. If you choose to accept that or not, it's up to you, but that's a fact. He's an ace. You have Jesus Sanchez, who has a slugging percentage of .492. And then Jorge Soler has 20 home runs. He's slugging .558. And I haven't even mentioned Luis Arraez yet. So the Marlins have a lot of pieces here to take really seriously. The National League is different than the American League. I mentioned all those good teams in the American League, right? There's all this parity, all these like top-heavy teams. With the National League, there's a bit more parity, but then for a good team like the Marlins, you can do a bit more damage. The Marlins have basically a 3-game lead on the wild card, and they are a 90-win pace. The Orioles, like I said, had a 100-win pace. They only have a 5-game lead. So the Marlins are in good position right now. They are leading the wild card chase. They're not going to catch the Braves, but they're in pretty good shape.
I guess
two
just
things
like
with that. Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Yuri Perez was unreal against the Mariners this week to avoid the sweep. Ace-like stuff, like a stopper, already inheriting that type of stuff. That was, they used 6 shutouts, 6 Ks. Luis Arraez had three straight games this week without a hit. So they followed that up with 5 for 5.
Yeah, he got a little bit tired.
He's an absolute sicko.
Yeah,
He is
five,
a sicko.
five
Yeah,
for
they're a
14
fun team.
or whatever that would be over that time, or like if he goes 0 for the game, so what's that, like 0 for probably 14 and then goes 5 for 5? Like making that up is
still a good week.
It's just an absurd amount of talent.
That's silly. That's absolutely silly. He's at 388, I think, as we speak.
Yeah.
He's totally. It was down to 378 after that little dry spell. He got that back up to 390 with the 5 for 5.
I'm really mad the Marlins have this opportunity to get. They should bring back those teals permanently now. Now that the team's even like moderately
should have never
competitive,
left.
Just make a statement and be like, all right, now that the team's good, we've been waiting to do this. We screwed up the uniform and the logo. We're going back full teal, sleeveless. They'd wear teal on the road with grays, and then gray pants. Then they'd follow it up with teal at home with pinstripe pants. They always wore teal. Bring it back.
Yeah,
Where's the
no,
turquoise?
I'm all for teal and purple being brought back to Major League uniforms. I miss that era desperately. The only time the Marlins were ever good was when they incorporated a fair amount of teal. I don't know. I think they got rid of it to a certain extent in 03, but still, 97 was teal heavy. I guess I'm fine with them at 6 right now. There's just so much evidence that like they're about to hit a fucking serious wall. I mean, they've been outscored as a team by 26 runs. And while it seemed they've won a lot of close games, and you brought up Solaris really had a monster. His OPS is higher than Luis Arraez. Like, I mean, he's had a fucking crazy good season. It's just, look, as a team, their ERA plus is 106. That's fine, right? That's above average. OPS plus as an offense is 96. Like, I think it's great. And I'm very intrigued by what their deadline might look like. I want to see the Marlins really competing here. And I'm fine with them at 6 for the moment. Of all the teams that are going to be on this list, they're the one I'm most trepidatious about falling the quickest.
That's fair. They have some major holes, but so here's where I think that they are in better shape than maybe they look for them. So Jazz Chisholm has been hurt. He's on the IL right now. He hasn't played particularly well. If he can come back and be the guy we saw last year, that's a difference maker. If Sandy Alcantara can pitch like we know he can, that can be a difference maker. And then Yuri Perez, remember, he wasn't there really in April or half of May, so now you're going to have him in theory for the rest of the season. You know, that's going to propel them as well. But you're right, Chris. They have a lot of moves that they need to make. That's on Kim Ang to go in there and make those changes and add some pieces. And it's also up to ownership to actually invest in this team. That's been a problem since 1998. So we'll see.
For sure. Is it me now at 7?
Yeah, I think we're
I
at.
believe it is.
And just can I recap real quick? We're because I can't write it down. I'm in the hotel bed. So we're Rays 1, Braves
Yep.
2,
Mm-hmm.
Rangers 3,
Rangers. D-backs.
Diamondbacks 4, Orioles
Yep.
5, Marlins 6. This is not what I have drawn up 3 weeks ago, much less at the start of the season.
I feel like there's a universal 7, and then 8, 9 is crazy. But I'll allow Chris to go.
I think we're in lockstep here with the universal 7 being the New York Yankees.
No, that's not
God,
right.
no. That is
No.
not what I.
Whoa.
I don't have
Hold
the Yankees on the list.
I didn't have them on my list, and I'm me. No, I didn't have them close.
I guess when I just
Go.
break down them compared to other teams, and there's a lot of similar records here. Like there was about 4 or 5 teams I could have gone with. I guess I have a higher belief that the New York Yankees can get hot and make a run than I do some of the other teams that I have below them right now. And I get it. They've had some brutal games. I mean, the last game they played, I know they got postponed yesterday. They gave up 15 runs. Them without Judge is scary. And not in a good way. I mean, he really is kind of the motor, the engine that keeps that thing moving. But I don't know. I'm kind of unimpressed with a lot of teams I have listed below them right now. It's just like I think, and Klemmer's talked about it before, like the Blue Jays, we keep waiting for the breakout. It never happens. Like, I don't know. There's some other teams that are kind of unproven. I might be stretching. It seems like I kind of am, but I have a little bit more faith in them at this point. Because I think their biggest issue, and of course it's a big issue, is injuries. Like, I think Judge being right, coming back, Rodon potentially finally starting to come back. Like, you're getting some pieces back. Whereas some other teams, I think that the holes are more apparent even at full health. Now, the Yankees have had injury issues for a decade. Like, I mean, that's when you sign, when you have 30-something players in your team, like, you're going to have a fair amount of injuries. But I feel like, I don't know, I'm not in love with where they're at as a team right now, but I just feel like they're playing a little bit better baseball than some of the teams I got listed below them.
They're a straight up below 500 team without Aaron Judge. Like this, that's how they're playing. Their lineup is abysmal, especially if Anthony Rizzo, sorry Carl, is going to play like this. And he's just playing weird baseball. His first base, his fielding is all out of whack. He tried to cover like Foley second base yesterday on a ball on Friday that just wasn't his whatsoever. Donaldson needs to be DFA'd. They can't hit at all if they have any sort of deficit at the moment. Aside from their comeback against Chris's Mets on Tuesday, that was like, wow, there's some adversity there. And then they show up on Wednesday and they just don't continue the momentum. I don't see them as 7. I don't see them as 8 or 9. I have the Reds here firmly at 7. I think the Reds are playing outstanding baseball. They just went into Houston and won 2 games already.
I know, but
I have the Reds. I have the Reds are probably the 3rd best team in the National League in June. If you take the last 2 weeks, they're probably the 2nd best team in baseball.
The Reds aren't on my list either. I'm with Castellani. I love what they're doing. It's fun and exciting, but it doesn't make sense. Like, it does nothing up.
Matt McClain's been up for 30 games. What's their record?
Yeah, their young guys are just good. Like, really, and like
we're not arguing that. That's not I think their good guys are excellent. I even think they have a shot to win this division. But if we're going to put the Reds here, if we're going to put the Reds here in this position as a 36-35 baseball team, why not showing more love to the Minnesota Twins? I mean, like, if you're gonna, I understand the Reds.
We're saying that the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, we're saying like we're doing more of a relevancy test to say like. I'm not going to say the Minnesota Twins and we just sit here and talk about how good their ERAs were in April. I'm interested right now in the fact that if the Reds rolled out on the field, those are some good – they're playing very good baseball right now. I'm hesitant to put the Yankees 7 when they're playing terrible baseball right now. When our Yankees guy jumps off the couch and is like, they suck, and then turns around to another team, I'm interested in that argument. The Reds to me, if you guys don't want to put them top 10 because they haven't done it, we're going to just show up next week and do it because I think this has happened like 5 or 6 times already.
No, I'd say keep them there. Keep them.
And then they just keep rolling.
No, I mean, but who are the Reds? Okay, Andrew Abbott, awesome. He's awesome. Hunter Green is very good. What next? Because it's ugly. And that's real. And I don't know how the Reds, that's a problem. I think they could win this division. But that's the faintest of praise.
I think there's other teams more deserving than the Reds to be in here. I think there's
I
more
have the
teams
Phillies
deserving
here.
than the Yankees, but I do like the Reds. If someone want to say, "Well, put the Reds in here," I don't hate them. I don't hate them in a.
I mean,
I
the
don't hate 'em
Giants.
in our
The
ninth.
Giants have won 6 in a row, right?
Yes, the
Like,
Giants are very hot.
I mean, they're just as red hot as the Reds, and they're better. They're
Okay,
better.
but first order of business, I don't think the Yankees deserve to be 7, 8, or 9, but definitely not 7. And 7 would have them actually moving up since last week, which I think people would be very upset about,
yeah,
and that would
okay.
make a lot of sense optically because they haven't played good. They split with the Mets. They're gonna lose at least one of these games today. They're not gonna win both in Boston, and they probably lose both, realistically, the way they're playing, the way they look. No Harrison Bader today. He's not back till Tuesday. The Aaron Judge shit is very concerning. Every time they ask Aaron Boone, he's like, it could be 1 week, could be 4 weeks, could be, like, that's horrifying. Like, he has and he's not trying to give a timeline, so we're like, oh, it's this date, you said this date. He's trying not to do that, although he just, like, blew that chance. The Aaron Judge injury is bad because really the team just goes with him. So for me, at this point in time, I just can't justify putting them at 7 or. So I think we got to kick the Yankees out here. We don't do this on the show very often here, where we universally agree to just oust a team here. But I don't think we can have the Yankees at 7. Now let's as a group figure out who 7 is.
Well,
Okay,
I mean,
so that-
does
does that-
Chris get a second swing here? Does he get the? No, he doesn't.
Yeah,
He
Chris
wouldn't.
gets a second swing. I like that.
Okay, second swing,
Back at
Chris.
7. Okay. Okay, well, in that case, I am going to go with the Giants then, because I like Klemmer's logic there. Like, I think that they are a better team. I think that if we're going to go by the kind of the argument that we've had so far of like, well, you kind of got to not throw out, but like you're paying more attention to what you've done lately as opposed to your overall resume. The Giants have been great outside of the first couple weeks of the season, and they have their system. And I know that it was frustrating to their fan base, the fact that they couldn't land Judge, couldn't land Correa. I get that. From a pitching standpoint, they are a fucking factory when it comes to fixing careers, turning guys around. I mean, Logan Webb, Alex Cobb, Alex Wood, DeScalfani, that's a pretty good 1 through 4 right there. Their bullpen's been solid. Duvall's a wonderful closer. And they don't seem to have any stars in their lineup, which I'm sure annoys their fan base, and I understand that. But, and we'll see what happens at the deadline. But they just have a lot of guys who keep the line moving and put the ball in play and get on base. They control the strike zone. 331 team on base percentage right now. Maybe not a ton of pop. I think their team leader, it looks like, is Conforto with 12 home runs. He's had a good year. Jock's had an excellent season for them when he's been healthy. So, I think there's a lot to like about that team right now. And they just beat, as of the time of this recording, the absolute shit out of the Dodgers. And I don't know if they're going to make this list, but I think that more people are really latching on to the fact that Dodgers bullpen legitimately sucks. It's the 3rd worst in baseball right now. And they have not, I don't believe they've had a very good record in extra inning games because of that. So, I like the Giants right now. Yeah, I think, they've kind of, risen from the ashes here after a so-so start to the season. Gabe Kapler was on the hot seat. I mean, they were what, like, let me look at here. They were 6-13. So they have been phenomenal since that poor stretch to begin the season. And I know last year didn't go well for them, but this is a team that won 107 games 2 years ago. And there are still a fair amount of pieces there. Structurally, from a front office standpoint, a lot of those people are still intact outside of Scott Harris. So, yeah, they're on the up and up right now. Good for the Giants. Let's keep them at 7.
Shout out, yeah, that's fair. I like that. Shout out Thairo Estrada, who is almost a 300 hitter for them. He was basically like a bench utility guy for the Yankees 3-4 years ago. Has been shot, by the way, in the hip. Fun fact. And he has turned himself to a nice little player, nice starting player for the San Francisco Giants. They're fun. That was a beatdown yesterday.
Crazy,
in LA.
yeah.
I'm excited about this Giants team being on here. So the Giants didn't get Correa, and they made a decision. And it was like, all right, we're going to spread that money over a few different players. And they went and signed a bunch of different free agents with that same money they were going to allot to Correa. And it reminded me a little of like the 04 Red Sox a tiny bit, when they traded Garcia Parra and made a bunch of moves at the deadline. They wound up getting pieces like Mankiewicz, Orlando Cabrera, Dave Roberts. They went and got a bunch of different guys to kind of like spread the wealth and have that depth on their team. And it worked for them, obviously. And I was wondering with this Giants how this philosophy was going to work. Obviously, like Chris said, it didn't work very well at the start, but they've played really well. And if you look at how they're winning games, it's not just this week they're bowling people out. For the last month, they've been just beating the shit out of teams. Like, not just winning, but winning by a lot. I don't know. The Giants are really good, and I know last year everyone's like, "Oh, they were bad." They went 81-81. Like it's not like they were horrible.
Right,
So
yeah.
I don't know. The Giants are red hot right now, and they're doing it under the radar because we're so focused on the Reds and so focused on other pieces, other teams. They've been like quietly like going wild.
And this is the perfect time of the year where you're gonna fall victim of the West Coast time zone. Like people are coming out of NBA, out of NHL. The whole kind of like sports calendar starts to slow down a little bit. So yeah, the fact that the Giants are like heating up, and a lot of people listening to this are just hearing about it for the first time. Like, yeah, did you guys know they're 37-32 or 30? Like they're significantly over 500. Where for the longest time we've talked about them this year. Yeah, it's disappointing. It's they don't have a lot there. And you know what? I like seeing that Giants logo. I just like it. I think it gives us, even if I don't care, there's just something about credibility. The Giants and that whole brand. Klemmer, am I wrong, or are you mad that they left? You mad they left New York still, or?
I'm not gonna. So I've been to the Polo Grounds site a couple of times. I don't know. It's always Sabante's move. Obviously, way before me. I know the joke you're trying to make there, Carl. But it would be wild. I do think about it a lot. Imagine if the Dodgers and Giants were here, like all the baseball games we could go to all the time. 3 teams in one city. That must be crazy. So I think about that. Yeah.
Yep.
Shout out to an old Francesa clip. Someone called in and goes, "Hey, do you think when the San Francisco Giants visit here, do they go out to dinner with the New York Giants?" And he just lost his mind for 3 minutes. It's a great.
He goes,
clip.
and then at the end he played in. He goes, "Oh, the Rangers do the same thing. I heard Lundqvist and Yu Darvish. There's a kinship there. Yeah, the all-time top 10 Francesa clip for sure.
It's an absolute gem.
Klemmer, going back to the free agency thing, that's such a good point you bring up, because sometimes what you perceive as curses end up being blessings in free agency, because you try to go out for one guy, and then you kind of end up allocating your funds into 3 others. I mean, there was a large contingency of people who felt like the Nationals window closed when they didn't re-sign Bryce Harper. And they made a run at him, right? And they started 2019 awful, but they used that money to go out and get Corbin, and they got a few pieces that they were, like picking up Howie Kendrick off the scrap heaps, guys that turned out to be huge pieces of that title run. Maybe we're seeing something like that with the Giants this year, where it's like, hey, we put all our eggs into the basket of getting Aaron Judge or Correa. It didn't work out. Okay, well, let's get Conforto, and he's having a great year, and let's focus in on our pitching, and they've been really good. So, yeah, dangerous team right now.
I'm up.
Mm-hmm.
We're the 8 spot.
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, I could be a fuck. Tempting.
Hasn't shocked you before.
Thank you. I'm tempted. What do we say? What do we say? Astros 8.
Oh.
Yeah, I have them at 8 actually. I have a team ahead of them, but I had them at 8.
I had them at 9.
All right. I can go Angels
The Astros
instead.
pitching staff.
I'm in between Angels, Astros.
I had them up there.
I have the Phillies in the mix.
We're not giving the Reds anything here.
Listen, we gave the Reds.
I need
what
one
we
more
came
great week.
for. We gave the Reds what they deserve. So the Cincinnati faithful right now that we gave them that, like, come on, the Reds.
They have impressed me going to Houston and playing like.
I don't know what to do. Why did I suggest that I hit 8th?
I mean,
I'll turn. You know what? How about
keep
this?
saying
How
it.
about this? How about this? I would like to turn this pick into a group decision.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like
So
to take,
why are we
I'd like
down
to
in the
take some
Phillies?
different opinions and what you guys think, and then make the right call here.
I'll answer that, Klemmer. As far as you asked,
All right.
why are we down on the Phillies? I'm not down on the Phillies. I'm much like the Reds. I'm 1 week away from putting them on this list. Like the Phillies this week, phenomenal baseball, right? They've played great. Pitching staff started to turn it around. Schwarber's got his annual June hot streak going. That's all great. It's just I've had moments with them this season where I felt like the corner is about to be turned, and then they just have a week of playing really sloppy baseball. It would not shock me
They've
if they're on
won
this.
12 of 14. 12 of 14. Is that not enough of a corner for you? Like, what are we doing here, guys? And no,
Because they built themselves.
Here.
Yeah, but I understand that. But last year was an exception and not the rule. It's very rare that happens. It's a good team. I could see them making it, on here next week, but I probably take into account the overall resume more than anybody else on this panel, which might blind me a little bit. But I still have them in that, like, if you're making the graphic, they're like in the hunt, so to speak. They're very close. Can't quite put them there yet, but I'm not against it. Like, if other people agree with it, because it seems like I went with Houston, I believe, at 9. And, I mean, if you want to look at it at a narrow point of view, like, the Phillies are playing substantially better than Houston is right now, and they have the one thing going for them that Houston does not have, which is they're healthier than Houston.
If the argument is Phillies versus Angels, who would be favored in that series? The Phillies would be.
The Phillies would be.
Right? Am I wrong?
You're kind of swaying me because I would
Mike
be more
Trout would be
inclined.
playing against the Phillies, so I would take Mike Trout.
And Shohei Ohtani. But other than that, though, I mean,
I'm saying that because Mike Trout's a diehard Philly guy. You're telling me Mike Trout's playing Philly? I'm taking Mike Trout. Like, and I'm not even doing a baseball matchup here. I'm just saying Mike Trout playing Philadelphia. I'm taking Mike Trout.
Okay. I don't think we can put Mike Trout on the graphic for the top 9, though. So I don't know how it's going to help us.
I'm fine with the Phillies here. I didn't hear that. Maybe I misheard. I heard people saying Astros today. Astros shouldn't be on this list the way they're playing right now. They've won one series since the very beginning of June when they took 3 or 4 from the Angels. It's against the Nationals. They're not playing good baseball, and they're going to be without Udon for the next month here. I can't right now put the Astros in this 1 through 9. Totally fine with the Phillies. I had the Phillies at 9, so fine with that.
Okay, so we're back to 8.
So we're going Phillies Angels?
I'll go Phillies 8, Angels 9.
Totally fine with that. I had it reversed in mind, but I'm totally fine with that. That's
and Hubs, thank you very much for the Astros point, because that had not been in my mind that they had only won one series this month, and that's good shit, and people need to keep
no. They've won one series since the first. So they won the first series. They took 3 or 4 against the Angels. Since then, the only series they've won is against the Nationals. So they've lost, like, 4 of their last 5 series, something like that. They're just not playing good baseball. Like, and the way they've looked against Cincinnati here, not great. I will say with the Phillies, and I think we maybe hinted at this, big week coming up. Like, we will be justified or, like, unjustified this pick because they got the Braves and the Mets. So, and they don't play the Mets well ever. No matter how shitty the Mets may look at times, the Mets always have their number, and the Braves are the Braves. So the Phillies can be knocked right back down to earth here, and we can forget about this 12-14 real quick. But I have no problem putting them in the top 9 here. No problem at all. And the Angels, by the way, Shohei Ohtani, those opposite field homers he hit against Texas this week, I thought they were replays. That they just
I know, right?
He just goes oppo 450 like it's nobody's. But he goes inside out It's just he's a sicko. He's an absolute sicko.
I wrote a blog about this yesterday. Like, he's getting better at baseball. Like,
he is.
When his 2021 season happened, I remember thinking, in terms of just overall, like, just being impressed with a player, this might be the most impressive season I've ever seen. He's gotten better each of the last 2 years. Like, I know pitching-wise, he's been a little bit wild this season, leads the league in, I think, hit by pitches and wild pitches, but, like, he strikes out 11 per 9. Like, he's, right now, what he is in 2023 is Yordan Alvarez if Yordan Alvarez could throw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. Like, he's putting up, like, elite DH numbers while also pitching at a pretty high level. So, I mean, it's good to see them on this list. I have a bad taste in my mouth because they blew a fucking lead to the Royals yesterday, and I was just like,
yeah, they did.
This is the most Angel shit ever. I'm starting to buy in. Easy series coming up against a team that's comatose, and you blow a 6-run lead. But I think they deserve easily, with how they played, a spot on this list because they've held up their end of the bargain. We've talked about it for years. Do something with Trout and Ohtani. Carl and I discussed it on the last pod we did. At the very least, they are going to be playing meaningful baseball well into the summer, which is something they have not done since these guys became teammates.
Yeah, shout out Mickey Moniak, 975 OPS, hitting over 300 still. Finding a home. You know, Phillies didn't work out. All the pressure being the number 1 overall pick when he got underslotted. Finding a home in LA. Good for Mickey Moniak. And it's helping the Angels lineup be more balanced and, give you more depth. So, yeah, all the power to him.
I give the Yankees a lot of shit for Aaron Judge. Without Aaron Judge, they're this toothless, lame team. The Astros are in the same boat. So even with Yordan Alvarez and his amazing season, they still have a team OPS of 96. So imagine how bad it is without him. That is really troubling. And honestly, I'm really disappointed how the Astros have been this last week. They still have that great pitching staff. I mean, Valdez and Javier Brown are probably the best 1, 2, 3 in baseball, right? I mean, if not, they're right there with anybody else. That's a great 1, 2, 3, and they still can't win these games. I don't know. The Angels are playing really good baseball right now. Obviously, the Rangers are good, but I mean, I'm looking at the Astros, just their last, like Cubs said, their last few games, and it's rough. I don't know. They got to figure it out because you know until Alvarez gets back, they got to figure it out.
For sure. Yeah, no, I mean, they're sliding. I think the injuries have caught up to them, and for whatever reason, they've had multiple guys who are just having subpar seasons. Like, Alex Bregman's too good to be playing to be hitting the way that he has.
Yeah.
The Altuve injury was obviously, devastating for him. He's come around lately, but yeah, I feel like I still believe at some point they're going to have some crazy hot week where they find their way back up on this list, but that division gap is widening right now between them and the Rangers. And even, hey, you throw the Angels in there with how they've played, this is a 3-team race.
Jose Abreu is slugging .318.
And that's with him being, like, somewhat hot the last, 2 weeks. Like, hot compared to... yeah.
Man, he fell off a cliff, huh?
Jesus Christ.
Do they expect more from...
Steep drop. Real steep.
Yeah. Did they expect more from Jeremy Pena? Like, because he's putting up similar numbers to last year.
Yeah.
But it's just like, do they expect more of this? Because he was really good in the postseason, right?
Yeah.
OPS over 1,000, with 3-something average. He's just not that. Like, I don't know if that was an aberration or whatever, but he's putting up the same numbers he did in last year's regular season. He's just nowhere near what he did in the postseason that carried them to where they went. Yeah, so I don't know if they expect more from Jeremy Pena or this is just who he is.
I think organizationally this is about what they expected from him because he's a very talented player, great defender, good on the base paths, like good baseball instincts, but he does not have great strike zone recognition. He's similar to me. Now, he's not, his peak might not be as high as this guy's peak, but he's kind of the newer version of what Javi Baez once was with the Cubs, where it's like, man, you have all the tools, man. You can be a tremendous player, and when you get hot, you might be the toughest out in this lineup. But there's a limitation there when you don't draw a ton of walks, you chase a lot of pitches, you become infinitely more pitchable. I think the Astros are aware of that, which is fine usually when you're in a lineup with Tucker and Bregman and Alvarez and those guys are hitting. That hasn't necessarily been the case this year, which has allowed more people to kind of see the flaws in his game.
I did want to mention the Cubs, too. They don't belong on this list just yet, but they've won 5 in a row. That National League Central is kind of a mess. They're playing really good baseball right now.
Dude. Like,
you think so?
Yeah, they're win 5. Like, they're trading Stroman, so.
They probably should.
Would he be the best pitcher available at the deadline then?
Yeah, easily, by far. Right now, statistically, yeah, by far. But that's a whole other argument about what do you want from a trade deadline pitcher. And because Klemmer, it's not with the Reds, like, when the Reds called up their players and the Reds fan base is waiting for Ellie and they're waiting for a guy like Matt McClain or Spencer Steer, and then they get there and they're doing well. And so the Cubs are not there yet where they have a couple of those guys that are in AAA and AA that are not factors at all this season. It's very easy for me to say that, like, this is – but you know what? When I say stuff like this is when I get killed. This is when it comes back and it just bites me in the ass and they go off and they win like 14 and 15. This exact time 2 years in Omaha is when they lost 13 in a row and traded everybody. I would be, and as I say this, now I'm very interested because Tom Ricketts, the only time he would ever intervene is if he would just be like, we want to buy. I want to come in, I want to buy. I want to put a division championship pennant hanging, fluttering in the wind. I would be beside myself if they did that and they moved capital that fucked with them and held them back for another couple years. But I shouldn't be too negative. I'm very negative about the Cubs and a disgruntled person about the Cubs. So,
their next week looks pretty easy. I mean, they have the Pirates, who they just beat the shit out of, and then you have the Cardinals for a couple in London. I don't like that for a hot team because it means you're taking kind of time out. You have this, so that part I don't love. I don't love the whole whatever. The London thing seems like I don't know.
The London
whatever.
game is a gimmick. The London game is stupid, and it's a gimmick, and I'll watch it, and I'll enjoy it. And I'm sure people who travel and watch the Cubs and the Cardinals play in London and, go hang out with the fucking lads and have a couple pints at the bar. Like, it's America's pastime. Like, I get it, all right? I fucking get it. But this is America's pastime. I don't like taking our boys and sending them out there in the middle of fucking summer. I know I'm being a little bit of a hard ass, but,
It's tough. No, if you're
I'm with you, actually.
Because that means you have 3 days off in a 5-day stretch. So if you're a hot team, that sucks. You come to a screeching halt.
Yeah, but also players could use a day off. Could use that little break here. It's like a mini All-Star break before the All-Star break.
Is it though? Because you're flying to London and back.
It is the
sensory
flying
overload.
aspect.
Everything's new. I think anytime it's like sitting in traffic makes me exhausted because I have to constantly make decisions. You're like brain's working, and I think that happens when you travel. You go somewhere new. It's like you gotta go take a dump or you gotta get something to eat. Like it just
That's
takes
fair.
out of you.
I wonder if they're going to use the juice balls again like they did for the Red Sox-Yankees London series, because that was hilarious.
Joke. It's a joke.
What Tanaka give
joke.
up like 9? What Tanaka give up like 9 in the first? Or it might not
How
have
about
been
we go play a series in the fucking Dominican?
Yeah.
How about we go play a fucking why don't we do a series in Colombia and Venezuela, in communities and cultures and shit that have like contributed significantly to Major League Baseball.
Right.
No, we're gonna go out to London because London's got money and people who fucking spend it and sponsors and I'm sure Progressive Insurance would love it or whoever the hell's behind it. Don't get me. The London thing is pure gimmick, and there isn't like any type of. They'll go do a Little League World Series thing, and they'll run the production costs on it at 10% of what a regular Major League game costs, and they'll make 10 times what. I would like to go to London, though. What do you guys think? Anybody got their passports? What do you?
I mean, Carl's a great point. Like, why, Dominican Republic and Venezuela and some of these other countries that love the game so much that would, I think, appreciate us going there so much more. But you're right. It all comes down to the dollar, obviously. We know that with the Oakland A's situation with Rob Manfred. To some extent, I guess that's his job. But that's why they're going there. You're exactly right, Carl.
Boys, this has been I said off the top I knew it was going to be a difficult 9 to get through. I think this is the most proud 9 I can stand behind, like of the 9s we've put together. I really liked how we rounded out 7, 8. A little atypical, obviously, from what we've done, but what I was going through, like the weeks are, everybody was just kind of mired in this, and we have a couple fresh faces. Phillies on the board.
Giants.
Yeah, first time all season.
We're going to get some heat for not having the Reds on there, I'm sure. But
From me.
Okay, that's fair. I need one more week, but maybe I'm full of shit too. I don't know. I just think the Giants and Phillies are better teams than I have the Reds ahead of the Angels, but that's fine. The Angels are legit. I mean, you have Mike Trout and Shohei.
And Hubs, we're gonna miss you next week. So, is there anything you want to offer up in your absence? Would you like it to be us 3? Do you want to pick your sub for next week?
You might miss me next week too. Oh. I might not be here next week. I'm gonna be in Philadelphia. If we do it in the morning, I can do it via remote in the hotel, assuming the hotel has decent Wi-Fi. The hotel is not in Michigan, so I should be okay. I'm not going to have to cancel any type Wi-Fi.
Oh, bro. Yeah, I know. I think that might be fixed by the time I'm back there next, but yeah, holy shit. Yeah.
But yeah, so if we do it in the morning, I can do it from Philly. I'll be at the every game. That's Phillies next weekend. So.
Oh, sick.
There you go. Yeah, I'm in that stage of my life where everyone's getting married. So I've got wedding in Rhode Island next week, and then my sister's getting married in Aruba the week after that. So I'm
sick,
in hell.
dude. Sick. Aruba's so sweet. I went for a honeymoon. It's so sweet.
Yeah, I have no money left. $0.
Hey, Aruba is where I believe Kenley Jansen and Xander and Jelton Simmons, and it's part of the Netherlands.
Yes.
That's why they're always on the Netherlands WBC.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't, until you get there, you're like, what does that matter? The roads, the grocery stores. It's like the Netherlands really cooked that one up. It's a nice island. You're going to enjoy yourself. I'll say that very much. Well, then we'll figure out subs. I love doing this stuff. You guys, if you're not on it, you're responsible for your sub or not having a sub and saying, I trust you guys to represent my interests without me.
Maybe I'll bring Tommy on here. It'll just cause chaos.
All right, Tommy would be like, I have Yankees 1 because you guys suck.
Yankees 2.
Maybe I'll have Frank take my place.
Oh, God.
Hey,
You want chaos.
Frank and I had a nice conversation last night about the Mets, and I mean it. I mean it. We talked.
Yeah.
We had a nice conversation about the Mets. It wasn't, we talked about Paul Skeens joining the Mets rotation.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna hang up, guys.
Happy Father's Day to everybody
Happy Father's
out there.
Day.
Yes. Happy Father's Day.
Yes.